Yo, what is up, guys? Josh here from Honest Audio, and today we're going to be looking at HM5 Brainwaves HM5 studio monitoring headphones. Now, this is the third time I'm doing this review because the first time my recorder crashed and the second time I didn't press record. So if I'm a little bit rushed in this, that's why. So yeah, we're going to be looking at the HM5 pads. You guys have probably heard of these headphones. Maybe you've never seen them. The thing you probably have seen, though, is the HM5 pads. Now, these pads are amazing, and they're actually what people look to most if they want to replace headphone pads for other headphones that are less comfortable. But yeah, these are the headphones that spawn these pads, basically. So keep that in mind when we talk about comfort and stuff like that. So, okay, what are we going to start with first? We're going to start with packaging and accessories. Now, the normal packaging, I don't really remember much. I think it was just cardboard. So, yeah, I don't remember too much. I got these over a year and a half ago, and I've had them ever since. But one thing I do have here is the carrying case, which is basically what I use for the packaging now for them. This is a really nice hard shell carrying case, pretty spacious carrying case too, but still small enough to fit in a bag. So yeah, it's really nice that it comes with something like that for only $110, and that is the price of these headphones. So inside the carrying case, you have this Velcro pouch. It has Velcro on the back and it just sticks on the inside of the case. And in here you have a screw-on 1/4" adapter for the wire, and then also an extra wire in here just in case your other one fails, which is really nice that these come with that also. And then another thing that you have in the case when you unbox it is an extra set of Brainwaves HM5 pads. Now, these pads cost anywhere from $20 to $25 depending on the time you're looking to pick up a pair of these. And that's pretty amazing when you think that the headphones are only $110 and they come with an extra $20 set of pads. So if you have other headphones and you're looking into getting Brainwaves HM5s also for them, these headphones will only really cost you $90 because you're getting $20 extra pads. So something to keep in mind. Pretty cool stuff. Okay. Now let's talk about the cables. The cable is pretty nice. It is a 5-foot cable, pretty supple, no kinks in it. It is really nice. Not something I would look into replace. Has nice strain reliefs. Goes to 2 dual 3.5 millimeter connectors, and they have, if you can see there, red and blue to indicate left and right. So it's really helpful for when you're putting the cables in, and also helpful for when you're going to put on the headphones, because you can just see the colors and know basically which way to put on the headphones. And also they have labels on the back. The HM5 label on the back lets you know that that's the back of the headphone because there's none on the front, and that is also another easy way to put on these headphones. So that's it for accessories. Now we're going to move on to build quality. The build quality of these is really great. They have plastic yokes, but the plastic is feels very sturdy, and it's rubberized. It's not like too cheap. It's not like cheap shiny plastic that you see on other headphones. And the extensions themselves are actually metal. And if you look up here, this is metal also. So I don't want to deform the headphones, but it is very sturdy, and I think I wouldn't have any concerns of these breaking on you anytime soon. Okay, the cups themselves have the same rubberized plastic around the outside, and then in the middle you got metal right there. And if you get these in the cold, you're gonna pick them up and you're gonna feel the cold there. So that's how you basically know. That's how I usually determine whether or not something is metal, or just like a plastic like looking metal. I mean, metallic looking plastic. Okay, so that's it for build. I think they're really great. Oh no, one other thing. So the right side on mine moves a little freer, the extension or the adjustment thing. That isn't a problem I think that you guys should expect to have, because I looked at reviews of other headphones and no one really mentioned that. So I think it's just an isolated problem with my headphones, and it was out of the box, so I could have sent these back and gotten new ones, but it doesn't bother me that much because when I put them on, it doesn't shift around at all. So it doesn't really make a difference for me, honestly. So I didn't really want to have to deal with sending them back to Amazon and getting a new pair. Okay, now we're going to move on to comfort. Now, comfort is pretty self-explanatory for these because Brainwaves went from a company that primarily made headphones, and then once they found out everyone wanted these pads, they shifted their focus more towards making pads, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. So that should say a whole lot about the comfort of the Brainwaves HM5s. The clamp is a little tight, but look at this, oh, it's so nice. It is really, really so nice. And if you're gonna have problems with comfort, it's probably gonna stem from the headband itself, but there is padding up here, and enough padding for me to where I've worn these for 5-6 hours at a time, and I have had no problems with comfort for these. So I wouldn't think that you guys should expect to have any problems with comfort. Okay. Yeah, did I mention HM5 pads? Like, geez, it's crazy. Okay, so sound leak and isolation. Now, these headphones don't have the best isolation. Like like when you're listening to them without anything playing, you can still hear stuff going on in the background. Like you can still hear my fan slightly when I have these on. Sorry if you guys can hear that right now, but it's fucking hot in here, and I would die without it. So, but once you turn on music or any like audio or anything like that, you're not going to be hearing much of the outside world. So you don't have to worry about isolation in that sense. Now, sound leak. I'm going to just turn my IDSD up all the way and play some music, and you guys can basically hear. So that's just with them open, obviously, and then once you close it, it's nearly impossible to hear anything, and that's at full tilt. So you really shouldn't have any problems when it comes to like whether or not you're worried about bothering someone next to you. So if you're using these in a, let's say, like a library or in an office setting, you're not going to be bothering the person next to you. The sound leak is very minimal on these headphones. Okay, now the power needed for the HM5s, you can power these off of a phone. They are, I think, rated at 32 ohms, but they might be rated around 50, I'm not sure. But you can power them off of a phone. But I think that if you have a DAC amp, they will benefit from them. I have used the E10K, the FIO E10K with these, and they do sound fine. I wouldn't recommend the E10K, though, for like professional use. I don't think that is a clean enough DAC amp combo. I would recommend something maybe like more like a shit stack, but $200 for a DAC amp combo for headphones that only cost $109, it still might even be overkill. If you can find something like maybe the Audio Engine D1 or something a little cleaner than the FIO E10K, even if it's just USB powered, it'll power these headphones properly. So you don't have to worry about power needed for these. Okay, now we're going to move on to sound. What do these sound like? They sound flat, and that's really the only way I can describe them. They're really neutral, and I think that they're marketed the way they should be marketed because you can use these for studio use. If I had to say anything about any coloration or anything like that, I would say that the bass is slightly emphasized and the treble is slightly recessed. So, alright, let's just talk about bass. The bass on these is very flat across the board, and by that I mean the sub bass is there and the mid bass is there. But most headphones, what they do is they bump up the mid bass to make them sound bassy. But if you have a pair of headphones that does bass properly, you can hear the sub bass and the mid bass at like around the same level, and you will obviously most of the time have the sub bass roll off, but on these it's pretty flat across the board. So when you use them with a bass boost if you have a bass boost on a device and you want to make them sound fun, these will sound great because it's not going to inflate the mid bass to the point where your sound is muddy, and you're also going to get a boost in the sub bass, which is really nice to get that low end rumble. So I do really like these if I'm doing pleasure listening with a bass boost on. It'll make them sound really fun. And the bass does sound like really big and impactful. So that's pretty good when it comes to bass. I would say that these are up there for my headphones when it comes to bass, because it is flat. You can have it flat, and if you want to EQ up the bass a little bit, you can. Okay, now let's move on to mid-range. The mid-range is also, I would say, probably the most neutral aspect of these headphones. It can be a little warm, but for my taste, I would say the mid-range is flat, and almost flat to the point where it's a little bit boring. So male vocals sound great on this, but female vocals might be a little bit dull, like just a little bit. But the HM5s still do mid-range fairly well, and if you're using them for studio use or professional use, that it's great for mid-range. Now the treble, like I said, is a little bit laid back, but it's not laid back to the point where you're losing out on detail. I would say that the treble on these is safe. So, and by that I mean that, so most people, not most people, but a lot of people are treble sensitive, and if the treble is fucked up at all, like peaky or overbearing, even just a little bit, some people will completely be put off for the headphone, even if the rest of the qualities of the headphone are great. So the treble on this is slightly recessed, so it's pretty safe because most people will enjoy these. It's not so recessed that people who like a good amount of highs will hate these headphones, but anyone who's treble sensitive will most likely not be offended by these headphones. And also the treble is fairly smooth. There's not any very noticeable peaks in treble, so they're great when it comes to treble, but it is something to keep in mind when listening to them professionally. So sorry if you guys can hear the train going by. Okay, now moving on to imaging and Soundstage and all that. So these are not the widest sounding headphones, but you have to keep in mind they are closed. So I would say the Soundstage is pretty good. Also, the Soundstage is wide enough to where you can hear separation between instruments and you can image properly. To whereas, like, I've had M40 X's before, and I actually had M40 X's before I got these headphones because of all the great reviews out there. If you are looking to get M40 X's, don't do it. They fucking suck. Those headphones sound like they're jamming music into your ear, and they're terrible for pleasure listening, and I think they're terrible for professional listening because of the fact that there's zero soundstage, and that kind of messes up the imaging. You don't want to have too wide of a soundstage on headphones when you're using them for professional use, but you want to at least have some semblance of soundstage so that you can separate things properly and do all that kind of stuff. So I think the soundstage and the imaging on these is good, especially for closed back headphones. And since the cups are so big and the pads are deep, that's just like a big sound. They don't sound thin or anything like that. Okay, now transparency and clarity. Since the sound signature of these has slightly recessed treble, they might sound a little bit veiled, but I don't think that they're veiled. There are headphones out there that are way more veiled than these, and I wouldn't say that you're losing out on any detail with the recessed treble. It might sound like you might be losing out on detail, but you're not really. There's not like parts of the audio that I ever feel like I'm missing when I'm comparing them to other brighter headphones. Okay, now we're going to move on to what genres these work for pleasure listening, because even though they're marketed as studio monitoring headphones, I would still recommend them for pleasure listening. Who's going to use these headphones? Or who should look at these for pleasure listening? The person who should be looking, if you're someone who only wants one pair of headphones, these are the headphones that I would recommend to get at around $100. because they're good at every genre. You're not going to complain that, oh, they're not good in this genre, they're not good in that genre. They're good at every genre, but they're not the best at anything. So I have a lot of headphones, or at least more than one. So I have other headphones that can excel in other genres more than these. So let's say you have the HD 650s. So I don't love those for rap or for EDM because they're not that impactful or anything like that. I have other headphones that I can use that are better for that kind of stuff. But the HD 650s are so good for anything that focuses on vocals or like I love them for classical music and stuff like that. So I have headphones that excel in certain genres and headphones that sound only okay in some genres. But those headphones I wouldn't recommend to people if they only have one pair of headphones, because if you like that genre, it's gonna be a little bit lackluster for you. So these headphones, though, the HM5s, are great in all genres. But if you have a lot of headphones, I wouldn't recommend these for pleasure listening, because more often than not, you probably have headphones that do better in a specific genre. So that's just something to keep in mind. If you like bass, not bass, if you like rap and EDM and you have something with a bass boost, these could do it for you, definitely, because of like what I talked about, how good the bass is on these. So maybe, but I don't know. I still think there's other stuff out there that's more fun to listen to when it comes to those genres. So yeah, but if you only do want one pair of headphones, definitely consider these if you like to listen to a lot of genres. Okay, now finally we're going to get into comparisons. So the first thing I'm going to compare these to is another budget kind of studio professional grade thing, the Advanced Sound M4s. Now these are lesser known headphones and they are IEMs, but I still think they're in the same vein as the HM5s. They're marketed as to be used in like professionally more than, let's say, pleasure listening. So they're marketed in that way. But I would say the HM4s are not HM4s. The M4s, sorry, are opposite slope. So their slope kind of looks like this. Oh, I don't even know. Like this. This is what it looks like. So the treble is a little bit boosted, and the mid-range is fairly neutral, and then the bass is a little bit de-emphasized. So there's a lot of bass roll-off in these, and there's not much sub-bass. So they're not I don't like them personally for pleasure listening. I use them for other things, but they are still usable for a budget professional use headphone. However, I would still recommend the HM5s over this if you can save up the money, because they are a little cleaner and smoother sounding. The treble is a little bit peaky in the M4s, whereas in the HM5s the sound is fairly smooth and I didn't notice any noticeable peaks. So I would say if you can spring for the HM5s, definitely go for that. Okay, but both are still good, cheap options. All right, let's look at a more fair comparison now, the Audio-Technica M40 X's. Now, these, we got to talk about price of these first, because it might be a little bit misleading. These are priced at $100 stock, but I don't think that they are usable in their stock form. Let's just take out the pads. What the fuck, Audio-Technica, were you thinking when you made the stock pads for your M50 and your M40 X's? These pads are so bad that they're not usable. And if you can use them, all power to you. The M40 X's do sound fairly flat in their stock form, but these pads are just no. Don't use those. So, considering that, you're going to be looking at getting something most likely like the Brainwaves HM5 pads to put on the M40 X's. And that being said, that's an extra $20, so you're going to have to throw an extra $20 onto the $100 price tag, that's going to push them up to $120, which is above the HM5s. And if you want to replace the cable that it comes with, which I also don't like, that's another $10. So you're looking at really $120, $130. So they're actually a little bit more expensive than the Brainwaves. So that's something to keep in mind when I'm talking about this comparison. Also, even with the comfort mods on the M40, I would still say these HM5s are more comfortable. Okay. That being said, though, I do think the M40s are slightly flatter. They are a little bit V-shaped, but I think with the less recessed treble and the little bit, you're basically getting, the differences for the M40 and the HM5 is the M40s have slightly recessed mid-range, but a less recessed mid-range than the HM5s have for their recessed treble. It's kind of confusing, but hopefully you understood what I was trying to say. The M40s, though, they don't have the sub bass and that the HM5s have, and the mid bass is a little bit bloated on the M40s. So overall, I would recommend the HM5s over the M40s, even with the mods on the M40s, if you're just looking at them for studio or professional use, because you're really saving money, getting better comfort, and probably getting a cleaner, I don't know, the sound on them is so similar, not so similar in the sense that they have the same sound signature, but it's so close that the comfort, the accessories, and the fact that they cost less money, I would recommend the HM5s over the M40s for studio monitoring. So yeah, that's basically it. I think that there's some other competitors to the HM5s definitely out there. I want to check out the Sennheiser HD 280s because those headphones are basically considered to be an industry standard. So I would love to check those out in the future. And if you're looking at studio or professional headphones, keep those in mind. Those are probably great. I've never heard them myself, but I probably am going to be hearing them pretty soon. Also, AKG K553s, those apparently are pretty similar to the HM5s based on how I've seen people describe the sound signature. They say that the K553s are neutral with a little bit of a bass boost, so that sounds pretty similar to me like the HM5. So I'd love to compare those in the future, and hopefully I can, but if you're looking to get headphones now, definitely keep those two pairs of headphones in mind. Other than that, guys, I might have missed some stuff, but if you have any questions, just let me know down below. I'll definitely answer those. And if you have HM5s yourself, let me know if you like them, and if you agreed or disagreed with this review, let me know. I'm sure other people are curious. And also, anything that I mentioned in the video, links will be in the description down below. So if you're looking to get HM5 pads, HM5 headphones, M40 X's, anything like that, links will be down in the description. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review, and peace.